Utopiales and jeunesse. You will say something? Ah, vous n'entendez rien. It's great. It's good. Yes. Donc, hier soir, tout fraîche et émue du prix Utopiales jeunesse, nous avons avec nous Vic James. C'est le prix des puissants, le tome 1, Esclave, édité chez Nathan, qui vient d'avoir le prix. Tous les ans, les Utopiales récompensent un roman ou un recueil jeunesse. Et c'est un prix qui est décerné par 6 jeunes de la région nantaise. Donc vraiment, le public ciblé, ils ont tous entre 13 et 16 ans. Et vous n'avez pas la traduction. Vous l'entendez? It's great? Ok. Ok, super.
I can hear you beautifully in English. My lovely translator is up there. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Avant de commencer, alors j'ai lu plein de choses. J'ai lu que vous aviez étudié l'histoire à Oxford, là où il y avait Tolkien. J'ai vu que vous aviez terminé votre doctorat du côté des archives secrètes du Vatican. Mais avant de commencer tout ça, vous venez de quelle famille? Vous venez d'une famille où on lisait beaucoup? Comment ça se passait pour vous?
Okay, so every writer begins as a reader, and I was so lucky that my parents joined me to every single library in our town. So I went to 1, 2, 3, I think 4 libraries, and every week I would take out the maximum number of books. And that was because my parents come from quite an economically disadvantaged background. My father could read, but my father could not write. So my mother wanted for me and my older brother to really be able to kind of embrace books and learning and reading. That was her gift. This is my mom. So parents are the single most important thing in creating the readers and writers of the future. And also I think because of that, I grew up, so the world of les puissants is a world of 1% and 99%. So the 1% has everything. It has money, it has power, and it also has magic. And for me, that world of inequality, it is our world today. It's very recognizably the modern world, but it was also something that I related to because I came from a poor, a working class background, and yeah. And because of my education, I was able to move into a sort of elite world. I went to Oxford, now I work in London. So for me, that gap, that distance was something that always felt very personal because of my family.
À partir de quel moment vous avez commencé à écrire? Vous avez eu envie de raconter vous aussi des histoires?
Okay, I think everybody is a writer. Everybody is born a writer, okay? Every child writes stories. And it sometimes makes me a little sad that people talk about themselves as an aspiring writer, or one day I would like to be a writer. You're always a writer, okay? So, like everybody, I wrote little stories at school. The first novel I tried to write was about 10 years ago, and it was terrible. It was really, really bad. It was pure science fiction. As a child, science fiction were my favorite books. So it had spaceships and aliens and advanced technology, and it was so bad. And I stopped at about 40%, and I thought, I will never be an author. Obviously, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. And I put that in a drawer, and I was so discouraged that I did not write anything else for maybe 8 years. And then I went traveling, and I was in Greenland. I was traveling because I was interested in Viking history. Okay, everybody loves Vikings, right? So I was in Greenland studying Viking history, and I heard an incredible story about how the Viking community in Greenland disappeared. Just one day, it's in the history books, and then it's gone. It's totally disappeared. And I thought this would be an amazing story. So I started to write that, and that was the first thing I wrote that I thought, maybe this is good, maybe this is okay. I wrote 90%, and then I put that in a drawer because I didn't know how to write the ending. The ending is the most difficult part of any book. And then the third thing that I tried to write was les buissons. So.
Et on est obligé de parler d'Oxford, là où enseignait Tolkien. Il y a eu une ambiance particulière, ça vous a un petit peu inspiré? Alors, attendez. Ah, c'est pour ça. Alors, attendez, hop, hop. C'est peut-être un problème de son. Si vous pouvez refaire juste un petit essai. Ça marche. Ça marche?
Oui, ça marche. Alors du coup, je vais envoyer un autre.
Ça marche. On a un autre... Voilà. Ouais, ah, c'est bon ça. Merci.
Yeah, I hear you.
Ah, bah voilà. Je voulais parler donc d'Oxford parce qu'évidemment vos biographies mentionnent que vous avez étudié à Oxford. Oxford, c'est l'université de la patrie de Tolkien. Est-ce que ça vous a influencé? Est-ce qu'il y a une atmosphère particulière? Vous avez mis un petit peu trop fort. Et, comment ça se passe?
Look, Oxford is already a magical place, okay? Yes, I went to Tolkien's old college. So Tolkien, obviously, like I imagine every single person in this building now probably read Tolkien. He was a huge influence. The college felt like a fairy tale. For somebody like me, from just a normal background, my college was nearly 800 years old. It looked like a castle. And the best thing, if you've read Tolkien, you know the Ents, like the tree, the living tree giants, yes? They were real trees in the garden of my college. So when I was doing my study, I did English and history, so lots of books to read. And when I did those studies, I would sit in the college garden underneath the Ents, Tolkien's tree gods. So that was incredible. And also while I was there, Philip Pullman, I love Philip Pullman's books. To me, they are the perfect kind of fantasy for the sort of the jeunesse, for children, adults, everybody loves them, but they have that sense of wonder that you find more in children's books than in adult books. But they're also very clever, and they have a real emotional heart. I love, when I first read Philip Pullman, if you know the books, you know everybody has a demon. It's like your soul, but an animal. And you know, when I first read Philip Pullman's books, I was like, oh, where is my demon? I want one. And both Tolkien and Pullman and many, many other writers. I mean, somebody like Lev Grossman, The Magicians, he is also sort of spinning a fantasy off of kind of sort of Oxford, Narnia, C.S. Lewis. I think there's a really big tradition of sort of Oxford sort of fantasy. But also I knew for me that the story I wanted to tell was not that beautiful, historical, dreamlike fantasy. I wanted to tell something that was very modern, very contemporary, and that is basically our world right now, just if there was magic. So that's the world that I wanted to write about.
Est-ce que vous pouvez nous raconter un petit peu comment est née justement cette idée de votre roman? Pour l'instant, il y a 2 tomes.
So, okay, so often a question I get a lot, I think all writers at events like this will get this question, where does your idea come from? And for me, it really was, do you say in French, light bulb moment? Do you know that? Like a light goes on. Yeah. So my day job is I'm a TV director, so I make documentary programs for the BBC. And before that, I worked in television news, so every day reporting British politics, society, quite tough stories. So I was making a TV series for the BBC called The Super Rich and Us. So it was about exactly the 1% and the 99%. So I had this very strange day job where I would be calling billionaires, multi-millionaires, people who, you know, like they own football clubs, they own jets, they are super, super, super rich. And as I talked to them, the one thing that they all had in common, some of them were good men, maybe bad men, selfish men, they were all men. But the one thing they all had in common was they understood that because of their money, they could do almost anything, you know? And it just happened in my head just to click. I thought, it's like magic. It's like magic. For these people, their money is like magic. And I thought, this is the way I can write the book I've always wanted to write, which is a contemporary story, a modern story, but with fantasy, with magic, because everything is better with magic, right?
Et cette idée qu'on doit donner 10 ans de sa vie en esclavage, quand on est plutôt pauvre, comment ça vous est venu? Qu'est-ce que vous aviez envie de faire ou de montrer à ce moment-là?
Yes. So if you've read the book, you know that in the world of les puissants, everybody has to give 10 years of their life in service to the state. So for most people, this just involves going to do a really sort of boring, routine, but essential job. Maybe you work in a factory, maybe you work in an office. If you have a special skill, maybe the state will try and use that. And you have to start your slave days anytime between 16 and upward, but you have to start by 55 because the state wants people to be, you know, young and healthy and fit and able to work hard. So that's the choice you have. You can apply to go work directly for the magical aristocrats. Okay, just a tiny proportion of people get chosen for that. And obviously, people imagine it's a bit of a dream. They imagine that this will be much better than doing something boring in a factory for 10 years. But actually, it's a dangerous, dangerous world. Now, I know myself.